So we have just gone to override mode. This mode, which toggles, as you can see. So the mode line now shows override, and if I have done that, I can just delete characters with the space bar going forward. So I can delete backwards, Control D, and I can delete forward like that. I want to undo everything I've done. Control / will slowly undo everything I've done back to the original situation. So you should make sure you can do that. And you also see that when you change that, the file is now changed. You see that in the mode line. If you go back, you can go back to the original state, and the last undo button will return the file exactly to the state it was in the beginning. So the way, if you want to modify chunks of text, what you want to do is highlight what's called a region. So a region of text like this, or like this, or like that. Yeah, this is a region of text. Now, to do that, you have to set a so-called mark. So Control spacebar, which is not shown in the mini buffer, will set a mark. The mini buffer says mark set, and from then onward, if you go forward, the region will be highlighted. If you press Control G, it will be annulled. And this works from anywhere, so it works with going forward and going backwards. So let's say I want to highlight voluptate velit, but then I didn't like velit, so I want to have only this, or maybe I decided I wanted a little more, a little less, and I do it like that. Okay. So now I have a region that's been highlighted, and I can do a bunch of things. I can delete it. Every time you do that, go back with Control undo, Control / to undo it. I can cut it, so I'm going to highlight the same region and cut it, which with Control W, and I'm going to go back. Or I can copy it with Alt W. And you see what happens here is the region was highlighted. If I press Alt W, it's no longer highlighted. And then I can copy or yank or paste or yank the last chunk that I copied into here. In fact, all the chunks that I have copied or cut are still there, and I could apply them one after the other. But for now, let's just assume I want to yank the last bit. So there's something called a kill ring or copy ring that stores multiple bits of text that I have copied or cut, and I'm able to move around in that kill ring just like in a history. So let's get back to that for a moment, just to repeat that. I'm going to highlight a section like that, and I can either cut it, Control W, it's cut, or I can copy it. I can yank it back, as you can see, just yanked it back here. And that's what I would like you to do. So take a whole buffer, set the mark, Control spacebar, then mark the whole thing from beginning to end, and cut it. Then move to the end of the file, down here, and yank it. And maybe that wasn't clear enough because we took the whole paragraph, so everything looks pretty much the same. I'm going to copy this here, do the same thing, and yank it here so you can actually see it. Now mark another paragraph, copy it, and yank it, and that's the way you can move around and take text anywhere in the file. I'm going to save this to show you something else. Some people don't like or cannot remember the Control W and CW and MW language. If you work in Windows a lot or in other editors or in Word, what you're used to is Control X for cutting, Control C for copying, and Control V for pasting. And you can switch that on as well. So you can activate what's called SUA mode, Control X, SUA mode. If you activate that, it says SUA mode enabled. You won't see this anywhere in the mode line, unfortunately. But from now on, if you have a region, and you can also cut it with Control X, yank it back with Control V, or paste it with Control V. You can copy it with Control C, and yank it back with paste it with Control V, as long as SUA mode is activated. Now, these bindings will only be active when the mark is active. So let's say I want to go forward. I want to, I don't know, do something else, like find a file. I would like to use the Control X not for cutting. And since no region is marked at the moment, I can still just do Control X, Control F. Yeah. But if a region is marked in this mode, and I press Control X, then it's assumed that it will be the cutting command. Okay, save the buffer. I'm going to disable SUA mode for the time being because I don't like it. So let's look at searching. Searching is really important. Searching through files. So I'm going to go to the top of my file. I'm going to delete with Control K. By the way, we'll delete an entire line. I've forgotten to tell you that. But if you want to delete an entire line, you can do Control K. Of course, if there's only one character here, Control D will here work as well. But here, Control K will work. If you want to search for something, you use Control S for forward search and Control R for backward search. So Control S will open the mini buffer iSearch, and now you're expected to put in a search term and put in the L. And what happens is all the L's will be highlighted. I'll put in an O. I'm looking for all the LOs. Back delete this O and put in LU, and you see all the LUs will be highlighted. Back delete again and write labor. And now all the labor words are highlighted. And now keep pressing Control S and go through the file. So the first Control S highlights the first found string, and so on. It moves through the file. Control S. Every time I do this, it goes to Control S. Now, when you get to the end of the file, I'm going to do this a little more quickly here. You see, I go to the end of the file. What happens is it's going to wrap at the top. So it wraps at the top. Second time I do this, and I'm now told it's an overwrapped iSearch because I'm at the beginning of the tab again. So as to, make sure that I've reached actually the end of my search history. Now, stop this search by pressing Control F. That gets you out of it. Start it again by pressing Control C again and Control C again and write labor. And now you can quit it with Control G, just goes out of it. Or if you are in the middle of a search and you found the word you want to stop there, you can type Control F or Control B to simply stay where you are. Otherwise, if you quit it, you will be returned to the beginning of your search. So if you start searching for labor here, and you go through it and you quit, you're going to be returned to the last place your cursor was before you started the search. Same thing goes for Control R. Control R works backward exactly in the same way. Control G will quit it. So that's it for search. Directory listing buffers, the next topic. So we've got a few more topics, like the next topics will bring us beyond navigation. So we're kind of closed now the basic navigation commands, and we're going to move on to something a little more complex, which you do need, but there are ways around it if you don't want to learn this stuff. But you'll be definitely much faster and will be able to follow my classes if you learn this. So if in case you had Windows split in any old way, just make sure you press Ctrl X1 and you are in your tutor file. And now press Ctrl XD and you see what happens at the bottom is you're offered a directory. Now // stands for the root directory or the home directory of Emacs. That's the directory where Emacs wakes up. This is in connection with Linux. Linux uses this character. The tilde alone will also work. So if you enter after this, you see my home directory. You can see that's the home directory from the top. Control C users Birkenkra. It's my user directory, my user account on this Windows machine. And this buffer is called a direct buffer. You can see this here. Direct by name is it's like a file explorer, which has a bunch of different possibilities. The first thing is you can sort this. If you go to the top of your file, remember how to do that? Alt Shift smaller to go to the top. Then you press S for sort, and you watch the mode line and the buffer. You will see that S will resort this by date. So you see the last file you've been working in, which is tutor.txt. You do it again, you see ordered by name. S by name and S again by time. And each time the mode line will be modified. If you go back to the name ordering, you see these characters here. The dot, the single dot, stands for the current directory, and there's nothing here to be done. If you enter it, nothing will happen. And you can delete it, actually, but you shouldn't. And if you go to the two dots, what this means is the previous directory, the directory on top of yours that contains this directory and all the other directories that are inside here. Just want to go back. We did this by mistake. And you see the blue here indicates this is a directory. You can see this at the beginning as well. D means directory, but Emacs makes it easier for you in this particular theme to identify directories. Anyway, what I want you to do is go to this line, the two dots, and press enter. This will get you one directory up. Now, this was a mistake in my script. I have to fix that because what you want to do is you're still on your username here. So press enter again and then look for the downloads directory, which is down here. Press enter and you're in downloads and you see the text.txt file that we downloaded earlier. And if you want, you can look at that file. If you want to kill this buffer, by the way, if you want to kill this buffer, you press Ctrl XK. Missing this out in the script. You're going to go back up to Birkenkra, to your user directory, not Birkenkra, whatever your name is. You go back to the dots. So downloads gets you down. Going to the two dots here gets you up. The different ways to do it, you can also type Ctrl XD and write downloads. Then you're in there. You can write Ctrl XD and go back up like that. Same thing. So you do not need those two dots to navigate through direct. Now, when the cursor is on a line, you can rename a file. Let's look at a harmless file here somewhere. File like this. And by the way, this tilde at the end means that this is a backup file. And so I can safely rename that. I'm going to rename that file by pressing uppercase R, and I can rename it to .emacs, like that. And you see it's been renamed. I can copy it to .emacs, and if I press S, you'll see that the file is here. So these are the two files I just created with renaming and copying. You can compress it with lower Z. You can compress a whole bunch of files. Don't do that. I'm just going to show you how it works. If I use lowercase c, they will be compressed into a zip file. I can mark it for some other command with N. So for example, let's say I want to open a file, an HTML file in my browser. I could mark this. A little star appears at the beginning, and then I can open a command on it. Let's do this with this file, for example. Let's open it with Notepad. Notepad is a Windows command, and if I do that, oops, I'm not allowed to do it, but you see it at least tried to open Notepad. Okay, so let's do a little exercise. Split the screen horizontally, and in one of the two screens, go one level up. Different ways to do this. In the other one, go to Downloads. And now take Downloads, uppercase C, copy text, and copy it to the upper directory, to the next one on top. And you can overwrite it if it's already there. And you can see now you have the file here. That's the original file. In the other one, Ctrl+X+O to go over, you have the copied file. Yeah. Now you have different buffers open already. Yeah, we looked at the text buffer. We looked at the tutor buffer. We have opened a few direct buffers. If you want to see all buffers that you have currently open, you type Ctrl+X, Ctrl+B, and in the lower part of the screen, you will see the buffer list. I'm going to do this again. If you only have one window open, Ctrl+X, Ctrl+B will open the buffer list. And you can change to this buffer list with Ctrl+X+O and move around in it and open any file you like in here by going on the line with the cursor. For example, you can open the Scratch buffer, which is a buffer where you can just write stuff. And now if you want to go back to the previous buffer, you could just type Ctrl+X+B, not Ctrl+X, Ctrl+B, but Ctrl+X+B. This will suggest to you go back to the buffer list. Do it again, but this time don't just enter, but instead type Ctrl+P for previous or Ctrl+N for next. And for some reason that doesn't work, maybe because we haven't looked at enough buffers. Yeah, now it works. So you have to, sorry, it's not Ctrl+P, it's MP and MN. So Alt, basically. So let's try this again. Ctrl+X+B, and then Alt+N, previous buffers, Alt+P, the next buffers. So these are different ways to go around in buffers. Now, using Ctrl+X+B and Alt+N, go back to the tutor.txt buffer and just enter here. Then Ctrl+X+1 to make the buffer big again. All right, that's it for Direct, the File Explorer. Now, there are a few extra things. I mean, really more advanced now. There's a lot of time you can spend on this. I'm going to show you this. You need it if you do some literate programming, if you want to create files, PDF files, or HTML files. This is kind of fun. You can also use the shell inside Emacs. Basically, this next set of commands enables you to almost never have to leave Emacs again. So in your Emacs buffer, enter Alt-X mx eshell. And what this does is it opens a Linux type shell inside Emacs. You can, for example, enter pwd, which shows you where you are. You can enter who am I, Birkenkra. And even though I'm in Windows, some of these Linux commands will actually work here, which is very cool. You can also do ls to look at the different files you have and so on. Now return to tutor.txt. You remember how to do this. Ctrl+X+B will suggest the last buffer you came from. Enter, you're back. And now write this file into a new file without deleting it. Ctrl+X, Ctrl+W, and write tutor.org. If it exists, then you can overwrite it. And now we could see what happened. The file name changed from tutor.txt to tutor.org, and the file mode changed from text to org. So now this is an org file. Go to the top of the file M Shift, Alt Shift smaller, press Enter twice, go back to the top and write star headline. And this is org mode meta information to create a headline. You can now use tab to make your entire text disappear behind this headline if you like. These org files are very important because they enable you to do literal programming, run code blocks inside Emacs. I've explained this in other tutorial videos. But what you can do is you can export these files, the org files, with Control-C, Control-E. You get into a dispatcher, and here you can export it to various formats. So if you have that, again, I go back, Control-C, Control-E, you type H for export to HTML, and then O to create the HTML file and open it, a buffer will open with your entire file. Looks like that. Now go back to your tutor file. You have to do that with the mouse, unfortunately. And now let's remove all content from this file. Control-X H will highlight the entire buffer. You can, of course, do it in a different way too. You can mark the top, go to the bottom of the file, and then press back delete to delete all your material. And now save the file with Control-X, Control-S, and enter a few lines at the top of the buffer. Now here I have to be a bit smarter. This did not work. Org, maybe that works. No, it doesn't. Anyway, what I want you to add is this entire text. So you need these control characters at the beginning in order to create org file metadata. So you type # plus, title, uppercase or lowercase, doesn't actually matter. Emacs tutorial. Oops. Go to the next line and type author, your name, not my name, and write pledge next to it. And then you add the line timestamp. It has to be written exactly like that, with all the spaces, space, smaller, greater. And then you insert a timestamp anywhere. The cursor can be anywhere here by writing Alt-X timestamp. Timestamp. You see a timestamp is included. You save that, and this is the file that you have to upload in Canvas to complete this exercise. So the rest of the tutorial file shows a bunch of other stuff that I don't want to go through now. I'm just going to show you, I think, briefly what it is, including getting help. You can open the Emacs tutorial. I showed you this before, so you can open it in your buffer here. Control-XT shows the Emacs tutorial, which you can work through. That's 1,000 lines, quite useful. A lot of different commands that we haven't looked at before, but you don't really need it either. You can open, not in this browser, but in a graphical browser, you can open web pages. You can also open the psychotherapy help if you like by typing emacstutor. That should work in the terminal browser as well. So you can say, please help me, doctor. If you do that, you get an answer from the chatbot. That's it for now. And there's more information in the tutorial to look up help. There's some video files that I've created, notes, and at the end there is a cheat sheet. Now the cheat sheet also has a PDF version, which you can look at. Just going to open this here, and you can see the PDF in here. These are most of the commands which we've looked at, bar a couple extra ones that we use in class often. And that concludes our session.